back foot, and first you have to, let's really look at the global setup also. We'll talk about India. Globally also, you are on a back foot because for the first time you're seeing what could be called as crack, which is now opening up at least in developed market equities. Suddenly US markets are stalling, they are falling more, they are gaining less, and there seems to be an air of profit booking which clearly seems to be there in the global market. Markets or global equity market participants are ignoring what is happening to the dollar. Nobody is talking about the fact that crude is declining. But tariff, even though nothing new, it is a logical extension of what has been announced. The tariff fear, in a sense, is occupying center stage once again. So if one really looks at the data points, the mood point and the market focus clearly seems to be tilted towards negative news rather than positive news. Nobody is talking about the constructive things which are happening in the, on the global landscape, and whether it is tariff or whether it is pure profit booking, I would say that for the first time, the global markets are showing signs of a pause. The interesting bit here would be that what happens to our market, which is you underperform the global market, and you underperform the global market quite decisively. When global markets are pausing, could that come back? Could flows come back to emerging markets? One. Or when global markets are down, because we're already a weak market, we will, in a sense, will fall even faster. When the weakness comes in global market, I doubt that Indian markets will be able to escape the rout. But if the weakness is a measured one, which is that there is no collapse, there is a general feeling of a pause with a downward bias, that may just help emerging markets. So now you'll have to deal with local issues and global issues. And for the first time, I would say globally things are hitting a pause button. We've underperformed this market, Aisha. We've underperformed global markets in a very dramatic or in a very stark manner. If global markets hit a pause button, will we come back? What you don't want to see is that you don't want to see a major selling there, because a major selling could coincide with further weakness here. What you want to see is a mild trend change. Dollar pauses, US markets pause, and then hopefully money comes back to emerging markets. But that's hope. These days hope is not working. Reality is what you should focus on.
Yeah, given that both the S&P as well as the Nasdaq also have fallen for a third consecutive day. In fact, the Nasdaq has now turned negative for the year so far. You've got Trump, tariffs in Canada, Mexico. He says they're going to go forward with that. And US futures, though, for now, they're holding steady, but again, these are just very, very early days yet. By the way, Asia as well is reeling under pressure, so it's not just a weak handover from US, but not just the Trump tariff sentiment, but Bank of Korea has cut rates. You've got Hong Kong, which has been one of the key outperforming markets. That's also fallen about almost 1.5%. It's knocking down about almost 366 odd points as we speak right now. It's a 0.5% cut for Shanghai as well. And Japan too is lower, nearly by about 300 points as we speak right now. And across asset classes, one can see, other than, of course, gold, which is still hovering around record levels, even Bitcoin has now dropped, below that $92,000 mark, and now it's hovering around the November lows. Apple's largest ever $500 billion investment in the US was the other key talking point as to how maybe the big tech giants are going back to the US as opposed to diversifying across the globe. So yeah, that's that. It's really all about, Trump's tariffs and what it would do really to shake off sentiment across the globe. But like we said, it was a rough session for us yesterday. Once again, continues to be no different. A Smith's decline for a second consecutive session. The Nifty now is at an 8-month low. Technology is taking a whack. Even some of the outperforming sectors like metals, which held out on Friday, they also caved in, and you had some of the blue chip names like Bharti, ICICI Bank, Reliance. None of them participated in trade yesterday. So yeah, I think, that question again on what if the global markets led by US were to fall, are we going to fall even further than that?
What you don't want, like I said, you don't want like a sharp selling. A mild selling with a trend reversal is good news for us, because that generally means that developed markets, in a sense, especially US markets, could show signs of topping out. That, I think, is the best discourse for us, which is as US markets, they stop rising and they start drifting lower. But specifically about Indian markets now, let's look at where we stand. Indian markets, will it outperform in this fall? Brokerages have turned optimistic, and small and mid-cap stocks have shown first signs of outperforming. What I like about the market is that yesterday, even though we came down below a key technical level on the Nifty, the selling was not very intense, and even in the mid and the small cap space, there was no large panic. Now, that is yesterday's price action is not an indicator that we may fall less, but it is something which I would regard as an indication that maybe in the near term, the selling I think has been excess, and if nothing changes on the global front or the local front dramatically, rather than cracking lower, we may just drift lower. Second, and this is the most interesting thing for me, Aisha, that for the first time, the top brokerages who only talk about valuations and who understand the positioning of the global investors also, both in terms of flow and mood point, they are raising the hand. Some are raising one hand, some are raising two hands. All of them are saying, "Lene ka samay aa gaya," which is that time to start backing the truck and start loading it, to put it very simply. Because markets are down, macros are turning, valuations were stretched, and on a relative basis, the contrast gap between India and China or India and US market is very large. So whether it is Citi, whether it is Jefferies, or whether it is Morgan Stanley, all of them are saying is that when you're buying into equities, don't look at next 6 days, look at next 6 months, and we would be in a better place for next 6 months. And I sincerely feel that if your North Star is that you're a long-term investor, then it's too late to sell. But you got some cash on you, I think you should start looking at some quality large cap stocks now. Small and mid cap stocks should still be avoided. And the sense I'm getting when I speak to everyone is that पहले large cap को stable होने दो, then we'll come into small and mid cap stocks. So what is the takeaway for our audience? Don't be bearish in large cap stocks. Don't buy small cap stocks. But if you have some cash, then maybe it is time to start nibbling into some quality, large cap stock, with the assumption that the world will be in a better place from next 6 months from now, and which looks likely because, you'll have clarity on tariff. 6 months, you'll know what RBI is doing. 6 months, you would know where earnings are moving. Hopefully, a monsoon. So 6 months things would be better. By the way, it's very hot in Bombay. I checked the temperature.
37 degrees with dry heat. It's
February.
the worst February ever I think we've seen in I don't know how long.
This is global warming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just amazes
Too
me.
many weather pattern changes and the kind of bearing that they have on the agri output. I mean, we don't realize it.
No, everything. Why? Whether agriculture is just one of the mainstays. I mean, electricity consumption.
No, I was just correlating it with inflation. That's about it.
So, see, mathematically, it's a heat wave which goes away for 2 or 3 days. You may just get lucky with it. But 37 degrees in Mumbai, this is like the peak summer weather which has happened in end of the winter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first thing markets would say, go and buy AC stocks. Wo mat karna.
Yeah, AC stocks.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.